Hello, everyone. Tis the season. Guys, hi Vince. There's Jeannie Schumacher. There's Mad Skills with your funny posts. And then there's my good friend Thomas. How is everybody doing? Oh, my guest is on, Julie. I am so excited to share the world with my wonderful friend of years, Miss Julie Detweiler. Thank you guys so much for spending a portion of your Sunday afternoon with me. It's my Christmas show. I'll do this show, I'll take a week off, and then I'll come back with a New Year's wrap up and a lot of hopeful wishes for 2021. But today, it's all about conversation and Yuletide cheer. The melodious sounds of Dr. Julie Detweiler. So excited that she's on. Shows like this do my soul really good, guys. I gotta tell you. Is everybody alright today? Yay! Got a little Christmas decor here. Oh, we do what we can on a budget over here at the Soapbox. But it's all love. I feel really good. Yay. I have such a huge replay following, so I get the gist of my feedback during replays, so I'm always excited to hear what people are saying. I am too. I am looking forward to 2021. I gotta tell you. I don't know what it holds. But I am looking forward to it. Folks, welcome to Soapbox Sunday. I am Jermaine Taylor. This episode of Soapbox Sunday is dedicated to the memory of Alva Schumacher. So, folks, Christmas is entirely personal this year. However you decide to celebrate or even not celebrate the holiday season is entirely up to you. This has been a heck of a trying year. But today, me and the platform over here at Soapbox, we are just going to commemorate the season by being grateful. Grateful for the joys that I have managed to find throughout this trying and dismal year. And I've been able to find a good amount, more than a handful I have. And one of those joys is the reunion of a great friend of mine that proved to be extremely fruitful during my New York time. Her sage advice has stuck with me all these years, and we reconnected via social media, and this year especially we got a chance to rekindle, and today she is my guest on the Soapbox. I've never forgotten her. So folks, give me a minute while Dr. Julie Detweiler hops on the Soapbox. Hold on. Hello.
How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Julie. How are you?
I am good. It's such a pleasure to be here, and thank you for asking me on.
Oh, wonderful. Julie Detweiler, she is a master clarinetist. She's described as playing with a bit of a flair. She performs regularly with the Tallahassee Symphony Orchestra, but among the many other organizations she's performed with, or the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra, the Orlando Philharmonic, and the Illinois Symphony Orchestra, among many others. She's currently on faculty at Florida State University, and she has her own active private training studio. She is a wife and a mother of two, and my longtime friend that I am so glad 2020 has just made
Yes.
me just love her even more. I tell you, growing up and getting older together, it's like we just find these different nuances that weren't there with us when we were in our formative years. And I got to tell you, I love you even more. So thank you for being on the Soapbox today, Julie.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. And yes, you are so right. I mean, 20 years, and I think back then and all the wonderful memories of spending time with you and just the conversations that we had. like you were saying in your
You always grounded me. I came in with the fury of, oh my God, I gotta get this audition. Oh my God, this, and you'd be like, Jermaine, and you'd be so calm. It wouldn't be a scream. You'd have this even pitch, and I would hear and receive everything you told me,
oh
and
man.
I'd be okay. You
Yeah.
know what I remember is distinctly about you? You
Mm.
always had your case, not all the time, but it was with
Yes.
you a good amount of the time.
Oh
And
yes.
I was like, wow, she is dedicated. And I guess, even that visual resonated with me, knowing that you were in New York and you were there about your business. You were there to make money. But after you made the money, honey, it was all about the passion. And
Yeah.
look at where you are today. It's a
I
beautiful
know.
thing.
I know. And likewise, I always felt that about you too, like the serious, like going for it, and I just, there was a kinship there, I think,
It was.
for
And
sure.
that's what's remained. That is what's
Mhm.
remained. So
Yeah.
let's start from the beginning.
Yes.
Before the clarinet found you, did you try any other instruments before the clarinet, or was it always the clarinet?
Yeah, I mean, I had started on piano a little bit when I was, I
Mm-hmm.
think, 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
And I just always liked music. I gravitated toward music. But when I was in the 5th grade, and I see that my mom is on, hi, mom. But
Is
when I
that
was,
Jenny?
that's Jenny, yes, that's my mom.
Hi, Jenny.
But the reason I say hi to her is because she was the inspiration for me choosing the clarinet. When she was younger, she had always wanted to play, and couldn't her mom couldn't afford it, and so I was like, I'm going to play the clarinet, and I'm going
Yeah.
to teach my mom, who still does not play the clarinet, but but it seems to become a passion for me, so that's all
I
good.
remember when I was in high school, a lot of the girls that were in band,
Uh-huh.
they were telling me that when they were being fitted for instruments,
Hmm.
they would look at the shape of their mouths, and if their mouth would form a certain way, they would direct them towards a certain instrument. Is that the way that is normally fashioned, or is that just what they chose to do?
That's yeah, that's often like exactly what they do. I don't think that was the case for me. We had such a
Mhm.
small school. I think they're like, sure, play what you want,
Right, right.
But in general, yeah, music educators will kind of look a little bit at the embouchure, at the facial structure, and say, well, maybe gear them toward one of these couple of instruments. But I
Yeah.
mean,
A
anybody
friend of
can make.
mine just commented. He said, "All I can think of is embouchure."
Yeah, it's embouchure. That's right.
Oh wow, we have some kindred and knowledgeable people in our audience. I love that.
Awesome.
I can't always be the master of the subject matter, so I rely to my guests a lot of times to fill in the blanks as to what I don't know.
All
So thank you for that, Mr. Matt Skills.
right. Nice.
So, along with playing the clarinet, were there other mediums of art forms that you dove into, like maybe acting or stage or anything like that? I mean, I know you mentioned piano. Were
Yeah.
there other art forms that supported your whole creative ambition?
Not really. I mean, I would say, I had also doubled on saxophone for a while,
Mhm.
and did a little bit of jazz stuff, although my husband is actually a jazz saxophonist, so I usually leave
Yeah.
that to him. But in terms of other arts, I had kind of tried acting in high school, and at the time was too soft-spoken really for it. Um, but really it was music that sort of called to me the whole time. So I think
Yeah.
it was really kind of it for me.
At what point did you start to invest in the training? Like, when did the training get intense?
Yeah.
And when did you know that this was something you were going to pursue and make a life out of? Was that in elementary school, or was
Yeah.
that a little bit later on in your teenage years? When did you invest in your training,
Yeah.
seriously?
I would say, through middle school, I had an amazing band director who just recently retired. But she
Oh,
was awesome, and she really encouraged me. So I started taking lessons in, I think, 7th or 8th grade, and
mhm.
really started to excel at it. And in 8th grade, I kind of decided um, that I really wanted to pursue clarinet, but I didn't know what that meant. I just was like, I
Mhm.
want to play the clarinet for a living. I had
Mhm.
no idea, what
Mhm.
that would entail as,
Wow.
years went on.
And then the road to New York, was there like a scholarship at a school there? Or like what got you to the city?
Yeah, well, I did my undergrad at SUNY Potsdam in upstate New York because I'm originally from upstate. And
Oh, yeah.
then after that, I went out to Chicago and got my master's at Northwestern. And I stayed in the Chicago area for about 5 years.
Yeah.
And I was also taking some lessons with Ted Owen, who was previously the principal clarinetist with the Detroit Symphony.
Hmm.
And and he said, I have a friend who just got in the New York Philharmonic. His name is Mark Nuccio. And let me see if you can take lessons with him. I know you're from New York, because I was looking to kind of just up my game, kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
get further
You
ahead.
were in the greatest city in the world.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm like, yeah, move to New York. I would
Yeah.
love to. And so so he got in touch with him and got me a lesson with him. And so then I moved to New York and started waitressing, of course. So,
Yeah.
and taking lessons and trying to get gigs and students and, doing the whole freelancer kind of life.
Was it a slow build, or did you pretty much hit the gate running? Like, what was it like? Because I know we always talked about philosophical and personal things. So I
Yes.
never got a chance to find out, like, what was the grind like for someone that played an instrument? Like, was it a bunch of auditions? Was it a bunch of just going to play for people? Like, how is a clarinetist discovered, and how is her movement progressed in a city like New York?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think New York is so tricky, and I think there are things that I look back on that I could have done differently to help myself, in New York.
Yeah.
But moving there, yeah, right, same. um, but I was studying with Mark, which was great, so that got me some connections, and he was able to kind of help me out by introducing me to other people. I mean, I think I
Right.
really learned how to network in New York. When I was
Yeah.
in Chicago, I had come out of school, and so there were sort of some built-in connections already. So
Sure.
moving to New York, he hooked me up with someone who had some students that they could give me. So that kind of got me started doing some teaching. Uh,
Oh, wow. I
yeah,
didn't know you were teaching when you were in New York City.
I was, and that was
Mm.
eventually what helped me to get out of waitressing, and then I was just teaching and gigging full time before I left New York. But at first it was like a few students. I actually mostly taught on Long Island,
Hmm.
out in Merrick area, and then I started to get to know some other players, and then
Right.
get some gigs that way through different orchestras. I actually played for many years with the Greenwich Village Orchestra, which is, they don't pay, but it was such amazing experience because I got
Yeah,
to
I can
play,
imagine.
yeah, I got
Yeah.
to play parts. So,
Mhm.
it's that idea that you've studied all these pieces as an
Yeah,
orchestral clarinetist, but then sometimes you don't ever get to play them,
sure.
or you're waiting to get a chance. And so in
Yeah.
this orchestra, we kind of switched parts back and forth, and I got a chance to play so many different parts, and I got to learn how to play. When you play principal, it's different than playing second, than playing E flat.
Hmm.
And so I got a chance to really learn how to do that and
Yeah,
sort of what all the unspoken rules are in the orchestra
sure.
too. So,
I got to tell you, I am, and I wasn't then because it was like I always thought I should have been paid for my work, but
mhm.
I would get so much out of those gigs that didn't pay me,
Yeah.
not knowing when I was doing it what I was going to receive from it.
Oh, yeah.
So I can attest to that. There were many shows that
Mhm.
I did where I would just get pretty much train fare to the theater.
Yes.
But what I would learn from those companies, what I would learn from those works, what I would learn about myself during that time invested was so much more monumental in my life. And I still stand on those foundations today.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I do understand that. Yes, indeed.
Mhm.
And a lot of those people that I worked alongside, us not being paid, I see them working professionally on television now.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what? There is proof in the pudding there. So I
Yes.
totally agree with that.
Uh-huh.
Now, when we were both in New York, did you take advantage of the city at all?
A little, but not. I mean, I've still never gone to see the Statue of Liberty. You know, I, I like, oh, I could have done more. I was so
Yeah.
concerned with, I've got to practice. I've got to get home,
Yeah.
get up so I can practice, so I can hustle, that,
And we've had that conversation
yes,
before. We were
yes,
like sort of lamenting on the fact that we should have, at least lived a little bit more and not been so about the work and the passion.
yeah,
But hindsight is 2020. I don't think we would have gotten to where we are today if we didn't have such that strong fortitude.
right.
But at the same time, it's like I guess I could have just relaxed a little bit more and enjoyed what New York has to offer.
Yeah.
Any particular times of the year that you enjoyed in New York a lot more than others?
I mean, I think this time of year is
Yeah.
wonderful in New York. I mean, as long as you're not freezing on a train platform. But
I know.
but if you get a chance to see the lights or see the skaters or
Yeah,
just walking through Central Park was always one of
yeah,
my favorites.
yeah.
Um, so that was always good. I mean, I would say the summer was probably my least favorite. Again, back to
Yo, God,
subway
sweltering.
platforms.
Oh,
Same.
I mean, it was just misery for like days straight, even at night.
Yes. I remember moving down here because I'm in Tallahassee now, and it's,
Mm,
I mean, summers here are really
yeah, tropical. Yeah.
tropical, just like a lot like Texas, right? But people would say, well, you're coming from New York, this must be so different. I'm like, well, the city is pretty, maybe not quite as many days, but it's pretty
Yeah.
pretty intense.
Well, we can't be in New York for Christmas this year, but you
True.
can set the tone for a little bit of Christmas for us.
Yeah.
What do you have prepared for us to give us today to kind of set this atmosphere of the holiday spirit?
Yeah.
What can you play for us right now?
Well, I thought I would start off with a little happy holiday and a little bit of everybody's waiting for the man with the bag. Because,
All right, whenever you're
ready,
ready,
are
Dr. Julie.
you? Okay.
All righty. Julie!
I'm not sure if you've ever heard me play, actually.
That song is not just one of my favorite Christmas songs, but that's pretty much a life theme for me because I'm forever waiting for the man with the bag.
That's that is how I am feeling myself. So I hear you.
Whenever he gets here, it won't be
That's
soon enough.
right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I got a question for you. We talked about you teaching. Well,
Yes.
I mentioned you teaching at the very top of the when I was introducing you.
Yeah.
Your practice is still active, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Are you doing it online right now?
So I am. I am. So I have a private studio, and
Mm-hmm.
in the summers I teach at FSU.
Yeah.
So
Florence State.
we're hoping that is still happening this year, but I switched all my in-person lessons to Zoom.
Mhm.
And so I'm doing all Zoom lessons. I had a number of students who like just they had to stop taking, basically, you know, parents had lost jobs, or it just
Yeah.
wasn't really feasible anymore. But yeah, so I'm all online now.
Right. Are you, and I'm noticing with my friends that are in education, like elementary education, even some in high school, they often have this anxiety that they're not reaching. Are you having those same worries a little bit that you're just, I mean, the remote is sort of what deficient?
Hmm.
I'm sure it is. But are there like unique challenges that you're actually facing with the remote teaching, or is it pretty much all in the ear? Or are you needing to watch what their hands are doing? Like, what is it that you can't make up for doing the remote teaching?
Yeah, you totally hit the nail on the head.
Oh, wow.
It's all those things. I mean, I think
Mhm.
I think in some ways I'm luckier than, high school or middle school teachers, because they have a whole class that they're trying to keep track of.
Mhm.
And this is just one-on-one that I have with my students.
Yeah,
But it's really challenging as a musician. First of all, there's the lag time, right? So
yeah,
I'm used to playing with them, and you
mm,
can't play directly with them because it doesn't line up. It just sounds terrible. I don't,
yeah.
we had this experience of um, trying to sing happy birthday as a family to someone in our family on Zoom
Mm,
during this COVID time. And it's just a chaotic mess. So I
yeah.
usually I have my students mute themselves and listen to me, and then we
Oh,
play together that way. But when you talk about seeing hands and seeing mouths, it's so much harder to not be
yeah.
a person, so much harder. And sometimes the camera angles don't really show the hands accurately. Sometimes it's hard to get them to really see what they're doing here, where in
Mhm,
person you're getting the full body language, so that
mhm.
you can see how they're breathing and how that
Right.
connects to their fingers and connects to their, to the embouchure and everything that they're doing. So it's definitely hard. I mean, there are certain things that I think I'm giving my students in terms of technique, which is good. We're able to do a lot of technique, but
Mhm,
so much harder with the other stuff. I find that I record a lot of stuff for them and then email it to them so they can listen to it on their own
mhm.
and that sort of thing.
I imagine there is a lot that is salvageable about the whole entire online process. The fact that they're doing it,
Mm.
they're utilizing that muscle.
Yes,
It's not getting stale.
right.
The technique might lag,
Mm.
but the fostering of doing it on a daily basis, there's a routine established.
Yes,
And
exactly.
that was so much for me in my development as an artist, just learning how to stick to the discipline on a daily basis.
That's so hard. That's so hard.
It is.
And I honestly, it fell away from me this past summer with,
Oh, are you kidding?
I was like,
Yeah.
practice for what? I just, yeah.
And that's funny because that leads me to my next question. This
Oh,
whole year as a live artist, Julie, how has it affected you? The fact that we've been on lockdown, the fact that there was all this civil unrest. As an artist,
yeah.
what were you having to like work through to make sure you remained who you were, your integrity as a clarinetist? Like, what was it did
Yeah.
you have to do? Did you have to make yourself practice, or like what was it? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that, at first,
Mm-hmm.
the very first thing, I mean, I can remember I was supposed to play a concert on March 14th. It was a Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
and we were in rehearsal when we had gotten there for like the second or third rehearsal, and the conductor came in and he stood up on the podium and he said, "Put your instruments down. We're going to have a discussion and we're going to take a vote." Because that was when everything had started to kind of shut down. And we ended
Yeah.
up canceling the concert. And then we lost both my husband and I lost all of our gigs from then until, well, till like now. But at that point, it was canceled immediately up to June. And, I mean, that was like, for us, I think that was $8,000 to $10,000 worth of gigs, like just, and not to mention just your passion and your livelihood,
Yeah, exactly. It's
what
a
you do.
lot at one time. It's a dump.
Mm,
Yeah.
it is. It really is. And I think for a while I kept sort of practicing a little here and there,
Mhm,
and I kept thinking it was going to come back for the next season, by
mhm.
August, September, and then COVID hit Florida quite hard in July.
Yeah,
And
I remember.
that's when I realized it really was not coming back anytime soon. And that's when
Mhm.
orchestras all across the country started to cancel their seasons or shift to online, things. Like here in Tallahassee, the TSO switched to smaller groupings of instruments all spread out, and they're doing everything online basically, so that
Mhm.
you can stream the show, but
Mhm.
but nothing is live.
Sure. What I saw a story over the summer, and these were parents that were trying their best to make sure that their students had somewhat of a school year. And
Yeah.
these were particularly band parents. And they had devised these masks that you could put over instruments. Did you see that?
Yes, yes. Well,
What? And when I saw that story, I thought about you. I was like, are they sacrificing sound for that? I mean, I know they're trying to operate within the CDC guidelines to make sure
mhm,
there's no spread, but
yeah.
I was like, is something must be lost there. What are your thoughts on that? I see you like looking like, yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard. I mean, I've been just at home doing the Zoom thing and have not really been
Hmm.
playing out, so I haven't experienced it too much, but I know there are masks. So my husband's aunt
Hmm.
made me a mask. So there's a hole in the mask for the
Hmm.
clarinet to go through,
Hmm.
and you can play with this. There was a study that came out of Colorado, one of the universities in Colorado, um,
Hmm.
that that showed that the mask wearing, and then you put something on the bell, like
Yeah.
pantyhose kind of thing,
Hmm.
and that
Hmm.
also helps. But they make these giant clarinet bags that you can put.
Yeah,
Is this
that's what I
what
was talking about. Yeah.
it's? You put the clarinet in the bag. I mean, I haven't tried it, but it's. I've heard. I've heard that it gets really hot and sweaty in there.
Because you got to put your hands under there. And
Yes.
it's like, and then you can slip because, it's brass or wood and your hands could possibly slip through
Yes.
all this. Yeah, I was like, I don't know how feasible that is.
Yeah, it doesn't look like fun to me. I haven't
Yeah.
really seen anybody actually perform with it yet.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, that's the guideline, or just the mask and the bell cover seems, for clarinets anyway, I don't know for every instrument, but for clarinets, it takes the clarinet sound from being akin to like shouting or singing and brings it back to
Sure.
normal voice level in terms of the aerosol spray.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the best they have for now. And they're starting to experiment with really expanding the spacing in the orchestra.
Sure.
Of course, I mean, the only thing with that though is that then you're talking about a smaller group, all
Hmm.
spread out. So you have smaller instrumentation and you have to choose repertoire for that smaller
Sure.
instrumentation.
All of this is so fascinating to me because when I was doing prep and research for this show, I
Mhm.
was like, there's so many areas I want to dive into because I just don't know. But we only have a finite period of
I know,
time.
I know.
So I had to like highlight the ones that were most interested and that was most, pertinent in my mind because I was like, I read this story, so I got to ask her about this. This year has been crazy. It's been
Yes.
insane as to what we've discovered about ourselves as a country. The civil unrest that was going on in late spring, all throughout the summer, even now.
Yeah.
As an artist, as just a humanitarian, who you are, how did you move through that? Were there some personal reconciliations? Like, how was that time for you in particular,
Uh,
this particular year?
yeah, I mean, I think like everybody, I mean, I was so angry and
Mhm.
heartbroken over the
Mhm.
murders of, George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna
Mhm.
Taylor, and now Mr. Goodson as well. I
Yeah,
just, it was heartbreaking to me. And I found myself like going to social media and wanting to post things, right?
sure.
And what I realized though was that I wasn't really stepping in to action though. And so I got off of social media for about a month or so, and I did a lot of self-reflection. And I I realized, especially, as a white person, a white woman in America, that I needed to take a step back and that I had some learning to do and some unlearning to do.
Mhm.
And I started really listening to
Yeah.
podcasts about racism, reading books.
Mhm.
And I feel strongly, as a mother, that it is
Sure.
my my job to educate my children too, and
Mhm.
to, raise them up. So I'm at this point now where I'm kind of reading and learning. I've also joined the group. I don't know if you know the group Be the Bridge with Latasha.
I don't. No.
It's like a Christian-based group
Hmm.
that examines racial issues and really tries to bring together Black and white communities. And
Oh,
uh,
wow.
so I'm kind of in my beginning stages with that group, but I think it might be a good way for me to contribute
Sure.
because I think as a white person, you just suddenly realize that, you know, my silence is not okay. I need to step
Right.
up and step in, and I need to find a way to do that and show my children how to do that as
And
well.
that's it. And I'm glad you mentioned your children because I believe when it has to be, ideologies like that, hold that lockstep racism,
Hmm.
their grandfather, they're recycled through time.
Yes.
So when the parent in the household are taking steps to change, therein begins the new cycle, the new
Yeah.
process.
Hmm.
So, because children pretty much live what they see. They pretty much mirror what they see. They take it out into the world,
Yeah.
and it was and not just for you, but even for people of Black folk. There was just a lot of reflection this year,
Yeah.
and a lot of adjusting, readjusting as to what we need to do to, not that we were complacent when we had a Black president,
Hmm.
but it was sort of like in the foreground.
Yeah.
And then when everything just suddenly just changed us, we realized, wait a minute, we just put a band-aid on what this country is really still not even beginning to heal from. So yeah, this year has just, I tell you, it's been pretty eye-opening, and I'm glad that a lot of people have been able to see their deficiency
Yeah.
and take steps to remedy what they're, and
Hmm.
with the build a bridge thing that you found.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's a step in the right direction. I'm always excited when I get these different articles that come across my timeline
Hmm.
that showcases artists of color in the particular world that your orchestration world. And
Hmm.
I sometimes I used to send them over to you. I was like, I think I'm
Yeah.
kind of saturating her a
Love
little bit too
that. I
much.
love that.
But is that like and I've always known different instrumentalists and piano players,
Yeah.
but as far as the world of orchestra playing, the symphonic world,
Mm.
is it like what's the percentage there? Do you find that there are a lot of us that Black people that aren't represented, or is it just like every other institution? They have to just really keep knocking on the doors in order to get someone's attention.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. I would say the latter for sure. I mean,
Really?
you look at symphony orchestras are still predominantly white, very white, um,
Wow.
and it's changing. I mean, it started changing back in the 1960s because they put up
Uh-huh.
screens for auditions so that you couldn't see the person auditioning, you could just hear them, and all of a sudden, people of color, Black people, like all women started winning auditions, and
Really?
amazing.
So it was a white male dominated world orchid.
Mhm.
Really?
Yeah, and that started way back then, but not, I feel like it hasn't changed enough,
Hmm.
or fast enough. And there is the principal clarinetist of the New York Philharmonic is Anthony McGill. I don't know if you know him. He's probably best remembered in not maybe non-classical music uh,
Right, right.
audiences, as he was the clarinetist who played for Obama's inauguration. I don't know if you remember, but anyway,
I don't remember him. I do remember the guy who played for Meghan Markle's and Prince Harry,
yes,
the Han.
yes,
I remember him, the
yes,
celloist.
I
Yeah.
love that family. That is an
Oh my God.
amazing family. And
Yeah.
you sent me that, but yeah, I follow them too. I mean, they are just
Oh,
amazing, and I
but,
think, yeah, I know that Anthony McGill has,
uh-huh.
he's a clarinetist and I follow him. He's amazing, first of all. Um,
Hmm.
but he has done this initiative recently called Take Two Knees.
Hmm.
And, it's hashtag Take Two Knees. And it started as an initiative um, to place a piece of music and then get down on two knees to protest police brutality. And
Hmm.
um, and it's very effective, and now he's turning it into a larger initiative, and I don't know all the details about it, but he's been a strong voice, to create more diversity, and you know in classical music, I should say.
Sure.
But
It's funny because I don't necessarily think of it as being a divisive industry because I feel like, you know, Black people, people of color, ethnic, you know, we're just harmonious when it comes to music. That's just our world. But I guess when you divvy it up into orchestras and things like that, you know, I guess they don't really make space for us. But I guess as time progresses, just like with anything, you know, you'll see that there are a lot more artists of color, a lot more women that are just as exceptionally and esteemed in those fields, and you should just make room for them because you know they're justified. They should be there.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think, for a long time, I mean, there's this thing with classical music, and people are examining it now, which I'm really happy to see because it's always been, quote unquote Western music. And it's
Mm-hmm.
this, the history through Europe of white music. I mean,
Yeah.
and there's some beautiful music,
Mm-hmm.
Ludwig van Beethoven is beautiful
Yeah.
music, but there are others too. And so they're re-examining how we make the history more inclusive, the theory
Mm-hmm.
more inclusive to
Yeah.
world musics and to
Right.
represent all the people who have
Mm-hmm.
contributed. And so I'm happy to see that. And I also noticed that we actually have an international clarinet association.
Oh,
People
really?
right? But it's a huge organization. It's an international organization, as the name
Uh,
suggests.
yeah.
But they just recently formed a diversity committee, and they've had a lot of feedback, both positive and negative. Like, maybe you should try it this way, do it this way. Can we help? Can we join? And I love that they're trying it out and they're learning as they go. And, I'm just like, the world is changing, and I'm
Sure.
excited and hope to be a part of the change.
Well, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a meshing of a lot of worlds, a lot of different mediums of music. Like I forgot what it was, but it was a classical piece. I forgot what she was playing, but it was woven together with hip hop. And
Oh,
I'm like, okay, that's how you can start these worlds can collab. I know it might sound a little far fetched for those that are just, striding about, what classical music is. But whatever awakens your, consciousness to get you to thinking about there's other forms of music out there
mhm.
that can be celebrated. The artist Lizzo, you've heard of her?
Oh yes.
She
Oh,
plays the flute.
flute.
Exactly, so it's like, wait a minute. These people, they have these building blocks that are rooted in something that you wouldn't even think of, but it helps set the foundation for where they are today. So
Absolutely.
that's what I see a lot of promise in. I really,
Mhm.
really do. Um, your grandmother recently passed,
Yes. Yes.
and you celebrated her so beautifully on Facebook over the past couple of weeks. But there was this one particular post that struck me. And I got to tell you, I felt like I was right there with you when you were talking about shelling peas on the porch. And I guess we're all so hungry for nostalgia. We're also hungry for things that, makes us feel like we're safe. Um, Aside from that, 2020, what has it really brought out in you as far as how is Julie going to take these realizations about her and make herself better? What has 2020 done for you personally, Julie?
Yeah. I think it's a loaded question.
Yeah.
And I think I'm still sorting through it. I'm a reflective, introspective kind of person, as you know.
Yeah.
And, and sometimes I get pretty deep, but I think gratitude has been one of the biggest things.
Hmm.
When we had to slow down, and looked into my kids' eyes, and I could see their dreams and their fears, and their hope is still right there.
Yeah.
Their Christmas joy is still right there. And I thought,
Yeah.
okay, what's really important? So I'm still wrestling with that question. I'm not sure
Mhm.
I have
Yeah.
answers,
It
but
depends on what day you ask.
eh, yeah,
No, I'm not kidding you because some days, like with all the whole political tension that was going on,
yeah,
it was a different answer.
yes,
And now that that's beginning to subside, and we're at the onset of a new year,
mhm,
um, I'm learning that my expectations are measured, but at the same time, the optimism in me is still there.
yes,
If I don't have anything to hope for, I can't really get out of bed every morning. I just can't. That's just
Yeah.
who I am. So and it sometimes it doesn't always serve me. Sometimes I need to be a little bit more, aware of and a little bit more critical of things. But that's the only way that I know how to move through space. I have to know that there is better in front of us, even though we have to get through the dark to get to the better.
Yes.
And I feel like our relationship, even throughout time, you told me this one thing, and I'd heard this from my grandmother many times, but you said it on the floor, and I was like, wow, this is coming out of all places from her. You said, Jermaine, you catch a lot more bees with honey. I remember you told me that. And I don't know if it was because I came into work in a bad mood, but you just sort of looked at me dead in the eye and you was like, you need to snap out of it. Whatever it was.
Sorry, or I can't
No, but I
remember
just
that.
remember because I always listened to you. And
Well,
I
likewise.
really, yeah, I did. So it's just things like that that just always stuck with me. And Julie, I got to tell you, today's conversation is just, we've got to build off of this. We're going to make it even stronger. And you will be invited to the soapbox as often
Oh,
as you will accept the invitation. Do you
oh,
hear me?
anytime, anytime. This has been a joy for me to reconnect with you. And every time have seen your posts, and you have a way of uplifting people,
Oh,
and you've always made me think and inspired me. So I thank you for allowing me the
oh,
opportunity.
thank you, sweetheart.
Yeah.
What can you play us out with? Something happy and
Yes.
joyful.
Yes. Happy, joyful,
Yay, happy and joyful
a
and
little,
something,
yeah,
festive.
very festive. I have to just make sure my read will work here.
Your read, I love it. I
All
know
the
what that
reads,
is.
all the reads. But I thought we would start, do a little medley. I have
Okay.
Joy to the World, Let It Snow, Silver Bells, and then We Will Wish You a Merry Christmas for sure.
Yay, I'm excited.
All right.
Introducing Dr. Julie Detweiler, folks.
Thank you.
You have set the atmosphere for a wonderful holiday season here on the Soapbox. I'm kidding you. I had a hard time, I'm having a hard time trying to find it, because life is different.
Yep.
But after
Yep.
that, especially after this conversation, I have hope for the new year. Thank you so much,
Me
Dr. Julie
too.
Detweiler. I really appreciate this. You have made this platform better.
Uh, well, thank you for having this platform, and thank you for having me.
You have made it better, and we will do this again sometime in 2021, sweetie. I
That,
want to know about that very first gig that you have, that live gig, you
yes,
know, break it
get
here.
it.
I may not can attend, but I want to blast it.
Yes, awesome. I love that. Thank you. It is.
Happy holidays to you, your two children, your husband, your mom. Thank you, Jenny,
Yes,
for jumping on.
hi, Mom.
And just have a prosperous holiday season and an even wonderful new year. But I'm pretty sure we'll be talking before then.
Absolutely. All right, you too.
My sweetheart, you have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
And folks, that was my very first Soapbox Sunday Christmas with a really good friend of mine, Dr. Julie Detweiler. I am so appreciative of her, and she is one of the joys that I have found this year, and I wanted to bring it to the Soapbox and share it with you. One of the joys I've refound this year, because we used to be really good friends back on the East Coast, and we sort of lost ways, so we kind of all grew up and did our thing. But this year, she is one of the reasons why this year has been better in some areas. So I'm really grateful for her. Next week, there won't be a show, but on the 27th, there will be a New Year's show. So we'll sort of wrap up the years. We'll spend the hour putting a lot of good energy talking about lessons learned. I'll just have some random people pop in. One of them's going to be here, Mr. Thomas. He's going to be there. And we're just going to talk about what we are going to do to make sure that the lessons we learned in 2020 will be applied in 2021. Thank you guys so much for jumping on the Soapbox, and I will see you again in 2 weeks, December the 27th. Bye, folks.